Welcome to Marriage IQ, the podcast for the intelligent spouse.
I'm Dr. Heidi Hastings.
And I'm Dr. Scott Hastings.
We are two doctors, two researchers, two spouses, two lovers, and two incredibly different human beings coming together for one purpose: to transform the stinky parts of your marriage into scintillating ones, using intelligence mixed with a little fun. Hello, lovers, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Marriage IQ. We're really happy to have you with us today. And to my soundboard guy,
I love that button.
I am so happy that he's here sitting by my side.
It makes me feel like there's a lot of people who like us.
Good. Hey, Scott, I've noticed a lot of the people I talk to lately bring up that they really struggle with communication with their spouse.
It's a big one.
Now, when we hear that, often I know there are some deeper things going on, and that takes a while to dive into. But today I was thinking maybe we could talk about communication and give some of our best communication tools to help people get a jump start on being able to communicate, even if there are some deeper issues.
That's a great idea, honey. I wish I would have thought of that.
Well, I'm glad you listen to me sometimes. That shows active listening is a very important part of communication. I think we've definitely had times in our own relationship where communication has been a big issue. I say something and what you hear is totally different.
Yeah.
We interpret what people say through lenses of our own experiences.
We put our own little spin on it, don't we?
Yep, we do. Scott, have you had experiences where you felt like that? You had difficulty communicating your perspective? Because you seem to me to be very confident in your speaking and to always seem to have the right words to say. And I feel like I struggle a lot with communication.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you hit on a couple of things here. One is proper understanding of what the other person's trying to say.
Right.
Understanding it in the way that it was meant to be said. And secondly, finding the correct, precise words to express your feelings or emotions most closely. I do have difficulty finding the right words to express exactly how I feel.
Huh.
It's so easy to go back to the default emotions, right? Default feelings, I should say. I feel angry. I feel excited. I mean, that's
just the very, very basic ones.
That's not bad in and of itself. And for somebody
Right.
who's starting out, that's expected.
And better than not sharing how you feel.
Right. We need to get that feeling going, talking about that feeling. So that's a great start.
Yeah.
At the same time, it may not be specific to the exact way I'm feeling. I may feel angry, but what I'm feeling is more betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different word that expresses different meaning. And so the more we can drill down on our feelings, the more accurately we can express ourselves to other people.
And to our spouse.
So we talked a little bit about this back in episode 39, Taming Emotional Triggers.
Yeah.
And that's really talking about these basic I feel statements. That's fundamental, necessary for a scintillating marriage. Today, we're going to go a little deeper on that and being more specific on words we use and communication tools that we use.
Yeah, we have 3 that we're going to share today. We've shared some in the past, but we have 3 really good ones today that are some of our favorites.
Yeah, these are great. You know, Heidi, some people, they're just naturally better, just good at coming up with words that are descriptive.
I think that's you. That's so funny to me that you said you don't always feel like you can.
Well, I'm working on it, and I appreciate that. You know, and research shows that those who are able to find words that best express their lived experiences and feelings tend to have more success in life than those who don't. Better lives, better marriages, higher life satisfaction. So people who are best able to identify a word, that precise word that describes how they feel, they have higher emotional intelligence, higher marital satisfaction. For example, a 2021 study by Jafari and BMC Women's Health. It was on married women, and they had a control and an experimental side. And it revealed that educational interventions that helped teach women to speak more specifically the words that best fit their feelings and emotions had lower marital burnout scores.
So you're telling me if I sign up for a communication class that it helps me be able to identify my feelings, that I'm not going to be so burned out in marriage, because my assumption is because the words I'm using get my message across and I'm not beating my head against the wall wondering why my spouse and I are speaking two totally different languages.
Yeah, that's part of it. So your spouse can better understand, but also that you can better understand.
Okay.
Now you have a word for that feeling. That's powerful. Instead of just going around angry, I don't even know why I'm angry.
Okay.
Really, you have a specific descriptive word that best describes how you're feeling
at that moment.
At that moment.
That means doing some brain workout.
That's right. Another study by Makas revealed that the ease of emotional expression, aka specific word finding that expresses exactly how you feel, led to more resilience and social support and higher life satisfaction. And those three kind of played on each other. Resilience, somebody who just looks at life with a resilient mindset, and those who have a social support network, together with that emotional, expressive intelligence, led to that higher life satisfaction.
I can see how some of the tools we're going to be using today are maybe not a class, but they provide exercises for us to be able to start verbalizing our feelings using words that we have a hard time recalling to our mind at the moment that we need them.
Yeah.
So
there's a fascinating article by Gina Barreca writing for Psychology Today, talked about Schadenfreude.
Look at your German.
I practiced that 10 times and I still slaughtered it.
No,
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. That's not slaughtering it. That was pretty good.
So what does
it mean?
What is Schadenfreude? It's when you feel glee at somebody else's humiliation, unhappiness, or failure.
That's terrible. But it happens.
Let me give you context to this word. The author, who is great, she talked about in 7th grade, she had a crush on this boy, and she just was totally in love with this boy, and he did not reciprocate and ended up dating another girl.
I have personal experience with that.
And toward the end
of a little later than 7th grade, but yeah.
Toward the end of the year, this other girl dumped the boy, and she went to her teacher, who was very wise, and said, let's help you figure out what you're feeling. And Schadenfreude is a term that exactly defines how she was feeling. Glee at somebody else's humiliation, unhappiness, or failure.
Because the other girl dumped the boy.
Because he got dumped. All's fair in love and war.
Yeah, I
in
got
7th grade.
For a cheerleader, and was longing for that experience, but it didn't quite happen for a few years.
Yeah, I never was dumped because the girls didn't really like me in the first place. So I never really got to experience that.
That's not totally true. You were so cute, but you bloomed in college.
You know, another author who's really big on this, Jordan Peterson, in his 12 Rules for Life, he's very specific in his language. I like his example, communicating in very specific terms, trying to avoid generalities when you speak.
And you know, it's really easy to sling mud when we are not intentional about the way that we communicate. All we know is we're feeling flooded, and the best way to get out of that is to pull up things from the past or to react over emotionally. And that's common in a lot of marriages. It's been common in our marriage.
If you don't know what to say, if you don't know what you're feeling, that overreaction is going to happen more often.
Right. And I think as I've learned more about emotional intelligence and emotional control and the way the brain works, it's been easier to control my emotions and use those words. So
we're going to teach you today specific things you can do right now.
Yeah. And these 3 tools are really just scaffolding. You get to build the castle on your own, but the scaffolding, you're putting in your own experiences, your own circumstances, but the scaffolding being there helps. And each of them we use an acronym for. So the first tool that I wanted to share with you, we call the RDA communication tool. And this is a really simple but powerful framework that's designed to help improve listening, emotional connection, and conversational depth in relationships. So if you're communicating at a very shallow level and it feels like there's just not much depth to your relationship at all, this is a really good tool. RDA stands for reaffirm, discuss, and ask. So this isn't a tool that's widely published in academic fields or in therapeutic fields, but it is very simple and very practical. I read some places that it was used initially in the healthcare field to help people understand each other, make sure that they were on the same page with things.
Yeah, I can see that as a doctor-patient relationship.
Yeah. So if you're saying something to your spouse and what you get is crickets, this might be a tool that you'll employ. First of all, if your spouse has said something to you, instead of you reflecting back crickets, reflect back what they said to you. Rephrase it in a way that shows you listened to what they said and you truly heard them. This might include summarizing what they said or clarifying or validating their thoughts and feelings. Validating just meaning, yeah, I get what you're saying. I hear it. That could be something like, it sounds like you felt really overwhelmed at work today, Scott, and you just needed a break when you got home. That makes sense.
So just simply rephrasing what they said.
Reaffirm or rephrase.
They will feel validated just by simply repeating what they told you, maybe in your own words. That's a form of validation.
That's exactly it. So the next thing you're going to do is add to what they say. And this is the D, the discussion. We're going to have a discussion about it. I might add my own perspective. I just barely rephrased what he said, told him I understood that he'd had a tough day at work today. So from my own perspective, it seems to me like things have gotten pretty stressful at work for you lately. I wonder if we could have some kind of a break for you when you first come home, where we go on a walk together or give you an opportunity to talk about things. This helps keep the conversational dynamic going and it helps us stay connected. And it continues to help validate him.
So with this added perspective, you're rephrasing what I'm saying, and then you're adding a new perspective. Hey, I've noticed lately that you're coming home quite a bit feeling down, feeling just exhausted. That's powerful. That's magical.
That was good. And we also I could share some of my own experience with it here. I've been feeling really overwhelmed too lately with my workload. Maybe we're just both maxed out and we need to take a look at what we can take off our plate.
And notice that you're not saying, hey, you think you've got it bad.
Right. Buck up, Buster.
You're saying, hey, I'm feeling this way too. Let's get together. And however that song goes.
Yeah. Okay, so the third step of this tool is then to ask an open-ended question that is follow-up to what we just were talking about, that deepened that dialogue we were having. Or it could be something that will allow your spouse to allow Scott to share more emotionally with me. So, what do you think could help support you better right now? Or can you help me brainstorm some ways that we could work together to lighten your load at work or to leave a time for you to just release?
Kind of open-ended question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it's very quick. RDA, reaffirm or repeat what they're saying is maybe even an easier word. Discuss, where you're adding your perspective. And your perspective can't be, well, in my perspective, you're just lazy.
Right. You want to be curious.
I've told you 20 times to fire that person at work. Nah, this is a time of support where we're supporting each other. And then ask an open-ended question. So what would you think of this?
So I think why it works in marriage, it helps build an emotional safety around each other by showing your partner that they're really heard and understood.
Right. Listening. And validating.
Kind of deepens the intimacy through shared vulnerability and thoughtful responses to each other.
Yeah. I think it also encourages us to both be curious with each other.
I love that word.
Yep.
That's a word that I want to go on my tombstone. He was curious.
Well, and this can then play over and over with the other partner following those same things. If I'm talking about things to build upon what you're saying, you can also ask me questions. So the conversation isn't just one-sided.
That's curiosity.
Yeah, from both sides. So the conversation really becomes meaningful, not transactional.
What's an example, Heidi, that you can use, a real world example?
So an example might be when I've been out of town taking care of my parents, or when we've had kids here in town with us, or we've got some big assignment that we're working on, some big responsibility that we feel like we've become disconnected. So I might say something like, Scott, I feel like we're really disconnected lately with how busy life's been. All right, now here comes the RDA. Let's see how you would handle it, Scott.
So what I hear you saying is you've been feeling a little disconnected.
Yeah. Do you feel that way too?
Yes, I do. Wow. We're both feeling this way. Let's talk about it.
It's really great. Okay. So that's the discuss.
Do you feel like this is something bigger going on with our lives?
That's really good. That's a great ask right there, because that gives me the opportunity to open up and tell him more about how I feel. That's great.
Thank you.
Simple. All right, let's move on to tool number 2 then.
Dear man.
Yep. Our family's been doing this strategy for almost 10 years.
We paid $100,000 to learn Dear Man. That's another story for another day.
Not intentionally, but this is from an investment that we made.
$100,000. And you're getting it.
This is what we got from it.
For free.
So Dear Man is a proven communication strategy that's part of dialectical behavioral therapy, or you might have heard of that, called DBT. It was developed by Dr. Marsha Linehan. And again, it's DEARMAN. And I'll explain what that is in just a minute. And it helps you ask for what you need. Or it can also help you set a boundary that's clear. And you can set that boundary in a respectful way without escalating into conflict. So this is a tool that we use most often when there's some conflict.
Yes.
Usually, or misunderstanding.
Usually it's pretty substantial conflict.
So it is especially helpful, though, in marriage when emotions are running really high or you feel like your needs are being unmet. So think of Dear Man as a script, a respectful kind of a script or a recipe that helps you get your point across without bulldozing over the other person or silencing yourself and bottling it up.
Scaffolding.
You just get frustrated. So this tool is ideal for those really tough conversations about parenting, about sex, about in-laws, about finances, any of those issues where tension really tends to rise. So the D is you're going to describe what you want as clearly as possible.
Don't try to remember this, by the way.
Yeah,
Dear man, it's too big. Just remember, dear man.
We'll put all of these as PDFs on our freebies on marriageiq.com. So you can go there and get little PDFs for each of these tools. Okay, so E is we're going to be expressive, but we're not going to be overly emotional.
Amen.
A, we're going to be assertive, but not aggressive. So see, all of these things are kept in check. R, we're going to reinforce our perspective and make sure that it's heard and understood by our partner. M, we're going to stay mindful. A, we're going to appear confident. We're not being a victim. We're confident in explaining our perspective. And then N, this is really a good way to negotiate. So, Scott, tell us how it works.
All right, we're going to sit facing together, knee to knee. Just like this.
So we're going to move our mics a little bit so we can do it. If you're watching us on video, you can see a little bit. We don't cross our arms because we don't want to appear closed off, send the message to our partner that we're closed off.
So again, this is a more serious issue that needs to be discussed that could be triggering.
Right. But when you start practicing this, we encourage you to start with something that's a little less serious. So you practice it a few times before you bring up the more serious topics.
Okay. Well, we're going to do a benign one, I think.
So what's step 2?
Think of a recurring problem that could be used for this practice.
Okay.
And step 3, we follow this script or this recipe. So spouse 1, in this case, it's going to be me. I say these words. When you
blank,
do whatever you do, I feel blank, whatever my feeling is.
Mm-hmm.
The story I tell myself is blank. This is a story I'm telling myself in my head.
Mm-hmm.
In a perfect world, I would see blank happen.
Easy peasy. And my job is just to repeat what I heard him say, which means I really need to be listening. I don't have to use his exact words. I can if I want to. But I really need to be paying attention, be present, be mindful to make sure that I clearly understand what he said. So I say, what I just heard you saying is, when I blank, you feel blank. And it could be 1 or 2 or 3 different emotions. The story you tell yourself is blank. In a perfect world, I would blank.
Right.
Did I get that right?
Yes or no, depending on if you got it right or not.
Okay. Is there anything else?
And then I can tell her if there's anything else.
Add something as I repeated it that will help clarify. All right. So let's go. We're gonna show you an example here.
Okay. You ready?
Yes.
All right. We're letting you in our lives here. So tread lightly, people. All right. Heidi.
Yes.
When you are down on yourself because of things that you're not sure of in your research, in your professional life, I feel confused.
Mm-hmm.
The story that I tell myself is that you don't think that you're good enough to be a PhD. You don't feel like you're good enough to be a podcaster or an author. In a perfect world, you would see how much work you had to do to get a PhD. That is tremendous years of studying nonstop and researching to do groundbreaking research on women and betrayal trauma. And you would see that as being an expert, and you'd be confident in yourself.
This is an emotional topic for me, which, to be honest with you, dear man, often brings some
There's
tears.
a lot of crying.
There is.
Warning.
In the many years that we've done this is this way. So, Scott, what I hear you saying is when I feel not confident in myself, you feel confused.
Yes.
You can't understand why I'm feeling this way after the investment that I've put into being able to learn and grow. The story you tell yourself is, can you repeat the
The story
story?
that I tell myself is that you feel like you're less than. You feel like
Okay.
you're defective, that you
Okay.
can't do this.
The story that you tell yourself is that I feel defective. I feel like I'm not good enough.
Right.
Okay. In a perfect world, I would realize that I have the tools that I need. I have the knowledge that I need to move forward with confidence. Is that right?
Largely, I think, I mean, a lot of people don't get a PhD. And I think that's something to be very proud of and be confident about.
Okay. Is there more?
Not really. That's just the feelings I have. I feel very confused. So, okay.
That's it. Now, at that point, I can just leave the conversation, and that gives him the opportunity to get out the fact that he feels confused. So let me just say, we could then talk about some things that either I can do to help him not feel confused, or we can talk about things that will help me not feel the way that I feel. You know, we could also use that same tool for talking about household chores, division for that, a lot of things like that. This is something that's deeper, right? This can also be used in a different way. And I want to show you what that might look like. Okay. Scott,
Yes.
when you see that I'm overwhelmed and that I'm really struggling with learning new things constantly, and you act on that by taking over a lot of the things that I typically would do because I work from home, like doing the dinner, doing dishes, making arrangements with kids, lightening my burden, I feel so much appreciation. I feel relief. I feel like the burden is unraveling, that you're doing something for me that I can't do for myself. The story I tell myself is that I am so blessed to have a partner who can see and recognize. In a perfect world, you would understand that sometimes when I'm grumpy, this is truly at the root of how I feel about you.
Okay.
And that I'm speaking more out of stress than I am out of criticism.
Okay. Heidi,
Mm-hmm.
when I noticed that you are overwhelmed and stressed with all this work that you have to do, and I pitch in and do dishes, make dinner, etc., you feel appreciated. And what other word did you use?
Relief.
Relieved. That's it. The story that you tell yourself is that I am, I don't remember the story that you're telling yourself. What
That I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed
okay.
to have a partner who at times is very observant of my
Okay.
stress
The story
level.
that you tell yourself is that you have a great husband who looks out for you.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, I would see that you always feel that way, but sometimes you have a hard time showing it.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Especially when stress is really high.
Is there anything else?
No. I
Okay.
think that's good. All right.
All right.
So that's a different way that we don't use as often, but we also do this with our family from time to time. And one time we did that, and every person in the family chose the same person who was kind of struggling. And every person in the family showed support for her, for recognizing all the things that she does. So not only can this be used for avoiding conflict, it can also be used for showing support and love and helping our partner and helping our kids or whoever we use it with know the depths of our heart.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be all negative. It can be
Right.
very positive, and that can be very emotional.
Right. So that one's always an emotional one, and that's the only one that's emotional typically. This last one is just a very quick one. It's called Phanos. And Phanos is a powerful research-informed communication tool that was developed by marriage and family therapist Debbie Lasser to help foster intimacy and emotional safety. So yes, this is a big, huge tool that helps us become more intimate with each other. The word Phanos is Greek for to shed light on. And it helps us be accountable. It helps us see the depths of each other's thinking. And that is what creates emotional intimacy.
And it's another acronym. And you can
Yes.
remember this one because it's short.
It's just a quick 5-minute check-in that we can do
Every day.
during breakfast, as we go on a walk at night, in bed before we go to sleep, however you want to do it. We mostly do it on a walk at night or right before sleep, but it's really great. And each letter represents a core area of emotional intimacy. So F, feeling. Share one genuine emotion that you've experienced that day.
I feel relaxed.
Yeah. Or I feel overwhelmed.
And A, appreciation. Express something you genuinely appreciate about your spouse. I appreciate that you made lunch for me today.
I appreciate that you got everything set up to record the podcast.
Okay.
N, what is it that I need? You name a need that you have, big or small. You don't do it by blaming and you don't do it by demanding, but you simply express a need. I need more sleep.
Yep. It can be an ask. I need you to
I need more
rub
physical
my
touch.
feet more.
So O is ownership. And this is where we acknowledge something that we could have done better without making any excuses. I own that I was really out of line today when I got on you for not carrying your weight in our household chores.
I own that I was short with you this morning in our discussion.
You're taking ownership. You're not making excuses.
And S, success. Share a recent win, invite support, celebration.
Yeah. What's something really great that happened today?
My success is I made it throughout the day without yelling at anyone.
Okay. That's fine.
What's your success?
My success is that I woke up very early around 6 o'clock and watched the sunrise and spent time being mindful. So I feel like that helped me be more mindful throughout the day and more patient. So whether this, like we said, is done nightly before bed or in the morning with breakfast or on a walk together, it can really help you stay emotionally attuned to each other and reduce resentment. And I think for women, especially, Scott, it helps us express what our needs are. I think often we spend so much time caring for the members of our family and think less about expressing our own needs, that this is really helpful.
Especially good for women who may have problems with that. We do this on our nightly walk. We have a time and a place that we do it every day.
Yeah, you could do it after you brush your teeth.
So let's talk about solutions you can do this week. Let's take time to sit with yourself this week. We ask you to sit with yourself a lot on this podcast, so get used to it. Evaluate the most common feelings you had this week. See if you can start labeling them and then further refining them. You can use Google or Chat GPT or the emotions or feelings wheel to help find those words so you can better, more accurately describe how you feel.
Yeah, then I think we'd love to have you practice at least one of the 3 techniques that we discussed today. RDA, Dear Man, or Fanos. They're all really great. They all are used in different circumstances, and they all will help improve the communication within your marriage.
And I think this really hits a lot on intentionality today, just being intentional about this framework of communication. And that does require insight too. The more that we can find words that describe better what we feel, that gives us more power, more insight, which then leads to more intimacy with our spouse.
That's great. So thanks for being with us today, everyone. This is a wrap for this episode of Marriage IQ.
Remember, an intelligent spouse knows a scintillating marriage starts with changing themselves.
You want some more? Follow Marriage IQ on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
And grab your free ebook and sign up for exclusive tips at marriageiq.com.
And then invite your friends and family to join the Marriage IQ community too.
And we'll see you next time on another exciting episode of
Marriage IQ.